Need some help on your fantasy baseball team? Today we're taking a look at the most improved players so far in 2026. Some of them may still be available on the waiver wire, and some of them you might be able to trade from their owners if they don't believe the hype, but I'm going to show you the data to show you that a lot of this looks to be true. Subscribe to this channel if you want to win your fantasy baseball league, as I show you all the tips and tricks and tools that I use using StatCast data. I believe we are in the golden age of fantasy baseball information for us as league owners, and we need to take advantage of it, and whoever does will win their leagues. And today we're taking a look at the most improved players. The way that I do this is I go to Baseball Savant, a tool we've been talking about, and in their leaderboard tab, there is another tab where you can look at year-to-year improvements or year-to-year changes, and then you get this screen, and I'm doing this by expected weighted on-base average, or xWOBA, and you can see here the top 21 most improvements between 25 to 2026, and we're going to highlight a few of them that popped out at me just so we can talk about some of these improvements and see if they can help your team. The first one we're going to talk about is Jordan Walker. We had a lot of the subscribers on my channel post in the comments when they were talking about breakouts in the beginning, what I thought about him, and he looks legit so far. So it may be a little bit later on this one to actually get him because either people have been holding on to him or he's been picked up on waivers by now. But take a look at this data. You can see, 90th percentile, 100th percentile all across the board for everything on the top. Expected weighted on base average. He has the absolute highest improvement in weighted on base average, and it shows in the data. And so high exit velocity, high barrel rate, hard hit rate, and his bat speed is 99th percentile. That's translated him so far in just 49 plate appearances to 5 home runs, 295 batting average, 367 OBP, and over 1,000 OPS. Now, there are some little warning signs in here. You can see, his strikeout rate is still a little bit high at 28%, which puts him in the 24th percentile, but his walk rate's pretty decent. And if you've watched my channel a lot, I want to show you the comparison here. When you have all these huge, the league and the game and fantasy baseball really rewards power hitters with high OPS, so slugging percentage, weighted on base average, all that is going to make such a huge difference because it generates runs, generates RBIs, all the things, generates home runs, all the things you need to win your fantasy league. When we show this data on contact hitters, there are so many contact hitters that have tremendous data down here in the bottom half, or they don't chase the ball at all. They make excellent contact. They're not striking out a whole lot, and they may walk a whole lot. But so all those will be like, 90th, 100th percentile there. But when they don't have the, expected slugging percentage or the barrel percentage or the hard hit rate or exit velocity and stuff like that, they struggle, even with that high contact rate, to produce really high OPS or impactful fantasy numbers, and that's why contact hitters are not as preferred as power hitters. But in this case with Jordan Walker, when you have these off-the-charts number for barrel rate, hard hit rate, exit velocity, bat speed, all that kind of stuff, when you look here at the bottom, people might say, there's still some warning signs, some risk, and yes, there is. I would love if his strikeout rate got a little bit better and his walk rate was a little bit higher, but you really only need to be an average player in this area. So that's why his chase rate at 28%, which is the 59th percentile, slightly above average, that's totally fine. Would I love that to be lower? Of course. And his walk rate at 55th percentile at 10.2, would I love that to be lower? Of course. Strikeout rate, it's survivable. It certainly should be a little bit lower, being only in the 24th percentile, 28.6%. But even as it is right now, you can see what he's doing. This, rolling 100 plate appearances xWOBA. You can see this goes back to last year, how terrible he was last year. And it really shows you the chart here and really where he's taken off so far in 2026. His at-bats in 26 really start here in this point as he jumps up to almost 400, expected weighted on base average in the rolling plate appearances. But that's the degree of improvement that he has made, and it looks legit and it looks real. Does he still have some strikeout rates concern? We can get into some, of course, but this is a profile you bet on in fantasy baseball, and you just hope that he can maybe get close to average. He doesn't have to be average. He can be slightly below average. He just can't be atrocious. When you have everything going for you here at the top, this is like your power engine of all these metrics, that you just can't be atrocious. And then I'll show you a profile where there is some risk to that in a second. But anywhere near average means you're going to have tremendous production. So even with that current strikeout rate, he is delivering over 1,000 OPS, and it all looks legit and things like that. The question is, can he maintain it, especially as pitchers will make adjustment? But this is the type of profile that you bet on in fantasy baseball, and he is producing at a very high level, which is amazing compared to how he's been the last couple years. Speaking of high risk ones, here's O'Neill Cruz Jr. So I talked about him, his potential breakouts or on the data that looks positive. He's always, again, this power engine at the top. He's always had this performance up at the top. And now he's definitely always had the top bat speed. He didn't always have the combination of xwOBA, expected batting average and all that kind of stuff as well. He's certainly always had, great exit velocities, not always barrel rates, but hard hit rates for sure. So compared to Jordan Walker, it is a little riskier profile. He definitely has this engine here at the top, but he has way more risk because he's down. His strikeout rate's over 30%. His walk rate's below 5. It's even below 4. So that is high risk for him. But even with that, he's currently producing, his expected batting average is 286. He's at batting 300, 352 on base, 580 slugging. His expected slugging is 586. So that is a legit slugging for 932. So this is a profile where someone who may own O'Neill Cruz Jr., if he happens to be, not available in your waiver wire, which is unlikely, might be happy with these results, but might be willing to flip them because they're worried that it's going to come crashing down, which there is some chance that it could with such a high strikeout rate and low walk rate. But this is an opportunity for you to potentially get in on him if someone's willing to, give him up for a reasonable price. I know there are so many people in the comments and the subscribers who look like they have PTSD from O'Neill Cruz and gotten burned by him from other seasons. So I totally understand when then people post comments saying there's no way I'm touching him with a 10-foot pole. However, we have to be objective and look at this no matter how many times you got burned. The top half of his power engine is absolutely clicking right now, and he still has these risk profiles, but this is one. If he can just make improvements, he doesn't even have to be average. He just can't be as atrocious. I would love him to get into the, the 30 percentile, maybe 40 percentile, what makes, Jordan Walker look even better by comparison. But this is a profile that you can certainly bet on and potentially have some improvements. It definitely has more downside risk, but this is something that's like, more than a 50-50 coin flip that he can still be productive for this year. Now going ahead, our next player, Cam Smith. I really love Cam Smith. I really wish he stayed at third base. I love his profile a lot more at third base than the outfield, but he is currently in the outfield. And you can see here in the chart, again, 100 plate appearances with rolling xwOBA. You can see how atrocious he was going into last year and then the improvement that he has made so far this year. He's gone from a 670 OPS last year to so far over a 900 OPS this year. He has 3 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 908 OPS. His expected batting average is 271. He's hitting 273. Expected slugging is even higher, 476. It's 523 here, so that's about right. So that's pretty good on the expected slugging. His average exit velocity, we'll have to look into that. Yeah, it could be improved, but his barrel rate is fantastic, 91st percentile. Hard hit rate's above average, and his bat speed is exceptional, 98th percentile, 77.6. That must be something he's worked on in the offseason. I don't remember that being as high last year. Now, he, again, still has some downside risk. Strikeout rate is too high, almost at 27%. His chase rate is really the concern. If you can get a little more patient with this kind of profile, trusting that you can smash the ball when it's in the zone, don't chase this garbage at 35%. He's got to get that down. That's probably his biggest risk area, but he's kind of buoyed by a high walk rate, like 13.5% walk rate, 75th percentile, especially for an OBP league. This is definitely the type of profile you bet on in OBP league, where he has an above average walk rate with the high power, and then you're just hoping for the contact to even be just average. That is the type of player that you really invest in. Cam Smith is definitely, in the conversation in a 5 outfielder league. He's definitely got to be owned and probably started in most teams, but he is definitely someone that I really like. I'm glad that he is starting to produce. I just really wish he had stayed at third base because I really need that kind of profile in third base. And this is why we do these charts. So when you do these charts, you can look at it, you can see here, with one of the number 7, the highest improvement from last year is Jacob Young. He is not even on my radar. So this is someone I really hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to, but he has such a high improvement versus, 600 to 500 to 600 OPS last year. Again, it's not an amazing, 732 OPS, but with his speed, and he had, 2024, he had 33 stolen bases, last year, 15 stolen bases, and only 364 plate appearances. So if you need a source of speed and you're behind in the stolen base, this is someone to take a look at. Wouldn't have been my radar any other way other than looking at these type of statistics. And that's why we do this, to have objectively look at someone and see, get on the radar. His expected batting averages is 99th percentile, high xwOBA, decent slugging, exit velocities, close to average, barrel rates relatively low. That's probably going to limit your home runs. Obviously, he's not a home run hitter, but with this high sprint speed, 94th percentile, if this is the kind of profile, especially with relatively low K. I wish he had a little more higher walk rate, because for stolen base guys, you want him to get on base as much as possible to get the steal opportunities. But here you can see, here's the improvements versus last year. If you need a source of stolen bases, this is a reasonable one. Whatever the Washington Nationals are doing, between a lot of their players with Joey Weimer and Brady House is looking improved. I don't know if they got a new hitting coach. I got to dig into this. But whatever they're doing is clicking so far this year. And Jacob Young is somebody that I would take a look at for a source of stolen bases if you need it. And obviously, I think with the Nationals, he's probably going to get pretty decent run time with that team, as they're looking pretty young and not very good. But Jacob Young is someone that I think you can take a look at for stolen base purposes. Don't expect a whole lot of home runs or power, but definitely someone with some speed if you are behind in that category. Last player we're going to look at is Dylan Dingler from the Detroit Tigers. Last year he was a lot hyped up to be a potential breakout catching prospect. And he did okay. He had a 752 OPS, 278 batting average, 327 OBP, 13 home runs. Okay for a catcher, especially if you can get him off the waiver wire really late in drafts. But so far this year, he's made a lot of improvements. 845 OPS. His xwOBA is 99th percentile. All these things are in the 90 here at the top, so the power engine is there. And you can see in this bottom half, like we talked about, he doesn't have to be exceptional on all of them, but he is getting pretty close to average. He's just barely a little bit below average. Strikeout rate of 24%, totally fine for a power hitter. I would love the walk rate to come up, but 7% is pretty decent. Chase rate, I would love that get under 30%, but it's pretty decent. If he can improve any of these metrics to get back to average, it'll only enhance what he's able to do, because it says with more opportunities to put the ball in play, he is going to smash the ball. And so if he can lower his chase rate a little bit, lower his strikeout rate a little bit, and just get the ball in play more often, he's going to be way more productive, especially if you need a catcher or a second catcher on your team. This is something to take a look at. He's only got 2 home runs so far in the season, but based on the way he's hitting with this, 93.6 exit velocity, 20 percentile barrel rate, that's actually super incredible. And 95th percentile hard hit rate, even with the launch angle sweet spot. He's definitely done some work in the off season to do all this. And so I think this is someone that, if you are looking for solid catching with the Tigers, it should be a pretty decent lineup. I know they've had their struggles so far, but that way the rest of the team can help buoy him to boost up your kind of runs and RBIs, although as a catcher, he's probably not going to hit very high in the order. But this is also someone to take a look at. I think, what people expected for him last year is predicting to be a potential breakout in the catching position. It really didn't manifest last year. It looks like it's 1 year delayed, because it looks like right now this is the type of profile with the power. I got to be honest, this kind of looks like Ben Rice light, right? So that you can see the power potential similar to what Ben Rice had. There's some things to clean up down here in his contact and chase rate and walk rate that Ben Rice has made more significant improvements on with the Yankees. But Dylan Dingler is kind of getting pretty close to that Ben Rice power hitting catcher type of profile, and that can be super valuable in fantasy, especially if he probably was available really late in drafts and redraft, or potentially in your waiver wires, because there are a fair amount of decent catchers out there. I happen to be in a 1.5 catcher league. We can start 2, but you get 1.5 players worth of games, so 240 games instead of 162. So this would be the perfect kind of second catcher profile to put into that type of lineup, where you can potentially get all this power, and if he does start to slump at all, you can really rest him and not worry about it, because you only need half of the games out of him in that kind of format. But Dylan Dingler is someone to take a look at. So hopefully you can take a look at these guys or anyone else on the list as see how I evaluate players who are improving from year to year, and then subscribe to this channel if you want to win your fantasy baseball leagues, and watch this next video because YouTube thinks this is the one that you will enjoy.